Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Shropshire Council's Cabinet meeting of Wednesday, the 8th of March. I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and to assist people watching or listening online, can I remind members to identify your name and role before speaking. So, moving on to the agenda. Apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Cecilia Motley, who unfortunately isn't very well this morning, and we've also got apologies from Tanya Miles, Executive Director of People. Item number 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. Do we have any interests to register in the room? Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to item number 3, which is to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 1st of March 2023. I'm happy to propose those. I've got a seconder.
Councillor Nevans, our second.
Thank you very much indeed. See no hands in the room. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 4, public question time. There are no public questions this morning. So now we move on to item number 5, which is members' question time. So there were 2 published questions from members, but also a question that was held over from council last week, which was submitted by Councillor Roger Evans. Councillor Evans, you are up first. Would you like to ask your question? Or would you like me to do that? Or get Tim to do that?
Can I get Tim to read it out, because I haven't got a copy in front of me?
Absolutely fine. Please. I'm sure Tim will be delighted to do that.
And Tim, I've just had a message from Councillor Bentic,
Yes.
who gives his apologies and asks if you can read it out for him.
Shall I?
That's later.
Yeah. Shall we do that? What do you reckon? Tim, over to you.
So, Roger's question to Council initially and now to Cabinet was this. As a former Shropshire County Councillor for this area, I have noted the recent events concerning the Greenfields Recreation Ground. I note the recent decision of the Supreme Court concerning this land in Shrewsbury, where the local community appealed a planning decision. Would the council leader or other person give the council an update, please, on what may now need to happen?
Thank you, Tim. And the other person is Councillor Richard Marshall.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, for the question. Richard Marshall, portfolio holder for Highways and Regulatory Services. This matter relates to a planning permission which was granted by Shropshire Council to a developer in 2018 for 15 dwellings on land at Greenfields Recreation Ground in Shrewsbury. The decision to grant planning permission was challenged by a local resident in the High Court on the basis that the land was previously in the ownership of Shrewsbury Town Council. Having originally been acquired by a predecessor authority as open space almost 100 years ago. Before selling the land, Shrewsbury Town Council should have given notice of their intention and invited and considered any representations made. In the absence of compliance with that requirement, it was alleged that a trust over the land in favour of the public still existed and should have been considered before granting planning permission. The High Court ruled that any trust did not survive the sale to a third-party developer and upheld the grant of planning permission. The residents appealed to the Court of Appeal, who unanimously upheld the planning permission. The Court of Appeal's judgment was challenged by the local resident in the Supreme Court, with a hearing being held on the 7th of December last year. The Supreme Court's judgment was handed down on the 1st of March 23, and following very detailed consideration of the relative legislative provisions and case law, overturned the Court of Appeal's judgment, concluding that despite the current owner having no notice of any public rights, the trust did in fact survive that sale. Further, the Supreme Court held that because they could not be sure that legal position would have made no difference to the planning decision, the planning permission would be quashed. This means that when the order is made giving effect to that judgment, the planning permission will no longer be in existence, which means that there will then be an undetermined planning application before the council for determination. Careful consideration will need to be given to the implications of the court's judgment in the context of current local and national planning policy before any further recommendation can be formulated. So far as the ownership of the land is concerned, it remains in third-party ownership, and any further consideration of that, including any possible mediation, is a matter for Shrewsbury Town Council and the current landowner, not Shropshire Council, whose involvement in this matter has been as the local planning authority. We will be working with the LGA and Rugby Town Planning to understand what the judgment means for the planning system as a whole moving forward.
Thank you, Richard. Do you have a supplementary, Councillor Evans?
I have, Chairman, Leader. I was disappointed that the question was not answered at the council meeting so that all councillors could hear even just a general statement. That's more detailed than I would have expected at the council meeting, but I was disappointed it was not stated or allowed at the council meeting, even though the council put a public press release out at 09:17 on the day of the meeting. I think I would have urged that the constitution be looked at again to regularise the position. I think that the speaker, the chairman of the meeting, has full control of it, and it's his decision. But yes, I'm glad for that. But is there any sort of timescale that can be projected on this? I hear about the consultations with others, but as far as the planning permission goes and Shropshire Council, do you know what the further position will be? Is the planning application being pursued or whatever, etc., if it is known?
Don't know.
At this moment in time, we do not know the answer to that question, and therefore we can't give any timescales. As I say, we are in consultation and that will happen. We know we'll be sitting there just as the local planning authority, and if a planning application comes forward to us, we will look at it from there. We don't have any timescales because we don't know the answer at the moment.
No, I mean, we don't have the judgment either at the moment. That's not been laid either. And with reference to your first point, Councillor Evans, I do take the point that the timing of that statement was unfortunate, and you've already received an apology for that.
Yeah. Can I, a quick one? I know it's not normally permitted, Chairman,
Go on, I'll
but
let you.
normally with planning applications, they have to be determined within 42 days or 13 weeks for a major one. I presume that timescale is now put aside because of this needs further consideration.
Yes, you're correct in that. The timescale is put to a side at the moment.
At the moment, until the judgment is laid down, there is still planning permission in force. So it's an odd one, Councillor Evans, which is why it will take time for this to come out in the wash, to be honest. Yeah. Okay, switch the microphone off. Thank you for that. Councillor Mullock, do you want to come and read your question? Councillor Peggy Mullock.
Chair of People Scrutiny. As we move forward towards the end of winter, many residents continue to be concerned about their energy bills and the cost of living. Indeed, some households are yet to receive the £400 support from central government. When can residents expect to receive this payment, and what wider support is available around energy bills and the cost of living in Shropshire, particularly as we move into spring?
Thank you very much, Councillor Mullock. And to answer your question in hopefully a précis form, with Councillor William Buckley.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Peggy, for the question in our ongoing support and caring for the vulnerable of Shropshire. First of all, I'd like to talk about the support from central government. The Conservative government have actually given us 4.2 million in the current year and have confirmed we will have that moving forward to next year. On top, that's for Shropshire Council to distribute. That is on top of the energy price guarantees, which most people will have heard of. There is a typo in section A. It should say 2023, not 2022 in the last line. But obviously, we know it's a moving feast. Whether they will actually increase it in April, we don't know, and I know that central office is looking at that. The ones that I want to highlight, Leader, are we've had many inquiries from people who are not on mains gas and also those who are not on the main grid. and maybe get their electricity rebuilt to them from the actual person who holds the bill. And therefore, I want to make it clear that there is now a gov.uk portal open for them to apply for the £400 payment. And also there is an assisted digital call centre to help those to fill in the online application. But I'd also like to make the point that I'm sure that our local libraries, Shropshire Local, our town and parish councils and our elected members will also help people who do not have digital access to actually get that done, because it's vital we get that information out to people. And part of answering this question was to get everything in one place with all the links so everybody could see what is available. I'd also just mention, because I know a lot of people in Shropshire aren't on mains gas, there is an alternative fuel payment of £200, which if it hasn't come to your electricity bill, you can apply for. So if you're on solid fuel, oil or LPG, make sure you've had that. You've got till the end of May to apply for it. We've also then got the cost of living payments from the central government for all those on means tested benefits, which is going to be a huge support. But moving forward to see what we've actually been doing with our 4.2 million and the support we've done has been so proactive. It states in the report that we've contacted over 25,000 residents since October. As of this morning, I think that's nearer 29,000. And we've also signposted them to a lot of other services that are needed. So there's also allocation within the Household Support Fund, cost of living communications. I've really push everybody to our cost of living website, which if you go onto the main Shropshire Council website, it's there. It's got all the links, everything you can do. And our help with the warm welcome, which I'd like to thank all the volunteers across Shropshire for the work they've done with the warm welcome. Finally, the holiday activities and food programme for children between the age of 4 to 16 who receive free school meals. I'm pleased to say that has affected thousands of children in the current financial year, and that will be extended forward to the next financial year. So this caring council leader has been doing an awful lot of things for the benefits of the vulnerable in Shropshire. So thank you, Peggy, for the question.
Supplementary, Peggy?
I can just say there seems to be an awful lot of confusion at the moment about the hearing on the news that cost is going down of fuel, and yet the talking that the bills are going to go up, and I think it might cause a lot of confusion that we might have to be aware of.
I agree, and I think Westminster are looking at it at the moment, and it may be while they are considering extending the £67 a month to offset any further increase. But I looked at the price of gas yesterday, and it's down to £1.04, and it hasn't been that low for 2 years. So, but hopefully by the winter we should be back to some sort of normality.
Yeah, the difficulty is, of course, is that for many people their contracts change coming up now.
Absolutely.
So their prices are going
We're
up.
all on
and their
standard
prices are
rates.
going
There's
down.
no offers out
Yeah.
there.
I think the one thing I would say, Gwilym, is that this the report is, the response rather, is chock-a-block with information, and I would urge all of us as members to get that information out to our town and parish councils, etc. I'll certainly be taking it to mind tonight. Thank you very much, Peggy. Thank you. Moving on to the final member's question, Councillor Burley-Bentic has submitted a question. Unfortunately, can't be with us, so Tim is going to read out the answer to the question.
Thank you. So Councillor Bentic's question begins with some background information with a number of points. Point 1. A report in the Journal of the Royal Society of Chemistry revealed that insufficient capacity was the water company's reason for 80% of all CSO spills, with exceptional weather accounting for 1.3% and blockages for less than 1%. Point 2. In 2021, there were 1,559 recorded spills for 23,293 hours, brackets 970 days, into the River Severn locally, either directly or via its tributaries. Point 3. The Shropshire Water Cycle Study 2020, commissioned by Shropshire Council, stated the Shropshire Water Cycle Study scored Shropshire red on a RAG score for overall sewerage network, with 2,510 anticipated new houses and 7,304 new employees at that time. Significant wastewater infrastructure upgrades would be required for all strategic sites and for a number of settlements in Shropshire, including Shrewsbury, Bridgenorth, Shifnal, Ludlow and Albrighton. Early engagement with Severn Trent Water and Welsh Water is required, and further modelling of the network may be required at the planning application stage. Fourth background point. Shropshire Council aims to deliver 30,800 new dwellings between 2016, when deterioration in our local watercourses becomes noticeable, and 2038, with no demonstrable improvement in local sewerage system to date. The question is this: would Shropshire Council's Cabinet please supply the results of its engagement with Severn Trent Water Company and details of the recommended significant wastewater upgrades, including any reports, recommendations, actions and timescales following the Shropshire Council Water Cycle Study 2020?
Well done, Tim. Excellent. The answer will be supplied by Councillor Ian Evans.
Thank you, Councillor Ian Evans, portfolio holder for climate change, the environment and transport. Thanks, Councillor Benedict, for his question. As part of the preparation for the local plan, the Council has engaged positively with Severn Trent Water in order to define potential capacity constraints with existing wastewater treatment works, and importantly, where future capacity upgrades are required to support new proposed developments through to 2038. The results of this collaborative process are captured in the Statement of Common Ground between Shropshire Council and Severn Trent Water, and which has been submitted as evidence to the current examination into the local plan review. You can access this on a link which has been supplied in the written response. That's a duty to cooperate Statement of Common Ground with Severn Trent Water. The outcome of this work shows that upgrades will be required to the wastewater collection network in order to serve the proposed growth in a number of segments. Sewage undertakers have a duty under Section 94 of the Water Industry Act 1991 to provide sewage and treat wastewater arising from new domestic development. Except from where strategic upgrades are required to serve very large or multiple development, infrastructure upgrades are usually only implemented following an application for a connection, adoption or requisition from a developer. Early developer engagement with water companies at the planning application stage is therefore essential to ensure that sewage capacity can be provided without delaying developments. The water cycle study concludes that whilst the proposed growth in Shropshire can be accommodated at a number of wastewater treatment works, some treatment works could require upgrades to ensure growth can occur without causing the flow permits to be exceeded. Under this circumstance, Severn Trent Water have agreed that they are obligated to comply with the permits of discharge. And if these permits are breached as a consequence of growth within the sewage catchment, then it is their responsibility to remedy the situation using their own resources. On that link, table 4.1 includes within the Statement of Common Ground, shows all the proposed recommendations and agreed actions resulting from this work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Did Councillor Benedict send you a supplementary?
I've just received it, Leader, and I'll read it as it's been sent to me. From the reply, can it be confirmed that Shropshire Council has engaged with Severn Trent about wastewater treatment capacity? And if it has, when did this happen, and will it publish the results? Given that there were almost 24,000 hours of CSO spills into the River Severn or its tributaries in the Shrewsbury area in 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Ian Evans?
Yeah, thank you for that. I couldn't give the date off the top of my head now, but we'll find that date out for you. But as the answer to the question did state, there has been engagement throughout.
I think I have I'll start again. I have in front of me, I've just clicked on the link that's within the answer, and it says the Statement of Common Ground between Shropshire Council and Severn Trent Water Limited is dated June 2021. But I think if Councillor Benedict clicks on that link, he'll see all the information that he's after. Okay, so that's fine. So moving on to the main agenda for the day, there are no scrutiny items, which is item number 6. Hardly surprising when we've got 3 cabinets out of 4 Wednesdays in March. Be nice to have Wednesday off next week. Item number 7, draft tenancy strategy and policy. Lead member Councillor Dean Carroll.
Thank you, Leader. Can I just point out, Roger, you still got your microphone on? We may get some feedback. Thank you. Councillor Dean Carroll, portfolio holder for growth, regeneration and housing. We brought the draft tenancy strategy and policy to Cabinet last autumn to go out for public consultation. That did go out to public consultation over the winter and it was extended because of the Christmas period into the new year. There were minimal quantity of consultation responses, but they were all of quite high quality in terms of the feedback they provided and suggestions made, and the changes made as a result of those consultation responses can be found in the report 7.10 and further in 7.11 and 7.12. The draft tenancy that we are proposing to adopt now with the changes made is attached at Appendix 1, and you will find that by scrolling down the report rather than looking for a separate attachment on the website. We did give this quite considerable consideration internally and with registered social landlord partners. I was delighted to see that some members of council also responded to the consultation, as well as parish and town councils, giving some very well considered and thought out views. And I hope that everybody will agree that this represents a positive and progressive step forward in replacing the previous tenancy policy and strategy. So I will propose recommendations 3.1 and hope that we get support from around the table.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Do I have a seconder for that one? Thank you.
Yeah. Councillor Ian Ellens, I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Jenny. Strange enough, I do support it. So, thanks for that. But I do note the flexible tenancies, and I didn't agree with those in the first place, because I understand why it was originally proposed, but I'm glad that they will be phased out. Can't understand why it can't be phased out now, and you're waiting until the 5-year term is completed before transferring it onto the new system, if I've read it right. And I would urge all landlords to adopt what this actually states, because if it's your home, it is your home. And we never want to turf people out of their homes, although they may be under occupied and maybe need encouragement to move, to release the home when siblings leave home. It is your home. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah, thank you very much. Councillor Carroll, do you want to come back on that one?
Yes, I don't have the exact answer in my head as to why we have a 5-year period, but I will go back to officers and come back with a written answer to you.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Can I just also say, can you pass on our thanks to the team for the amount of work that's gone into this? Because I know it has been a significant amount of work, and it's really good to see. And I, like you, was very pleased to see that we had good feedback from elected members and from town and parish councils. So I have a proposer, I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8, which is unsafe walking routes policy. Councillor Kirsty Hurst-Knight.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Kirsty Hurst-Knight, portfolio holder for children in education. Following a local government ombudsman review, the policy that we did have for hazardous routes to school has been revised, renamed Unsafe Walking Routes Assessment Policy. The review identified that on our current policy we need to update elements in line with the Department for Education statutory guidance for home to school transport. The revision will not affect any children previously entitled, and I've got James here who might talk about benchmarking and what work went on there. So there's no change under the new policy, and it doesn't have any financial impact to the council. The recent consultation progress did engage with our stakeholders, and some areas were picked up, but I believe Councillor Marshall will confirm they were all handed over to the safety high-risk team and they will be addressed. So when comments were made, they're going to be looked at. I want to reassure Cabinet that this has been thoroughly looked at, good practice, benchmarking, and I know James is going to talk about the gap analysis, but this is really about the relationship between pedestrians and traffic only, and this is our policy document of how we assess. And the current 510 pupils receiving free school transport on the new unsafe walking routes ground will not be affected. So I'm happy to put forward the recommendation outlined at 3.1 in the report today, and that ask Cabinet to adopt the revised policy. We've looked at good practice. It's going to be annually reviewed, good benchmarking, great consultation process. So happy to put forward the updated policy today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurst-Knight. Do I have a second for that?
Councillor Richard Marshall, happy to second that, Leader.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. I note this, and I note the word statutory appears all the way through it. And I do have one or two questions, because I note that if a route has not been assessed for 5 years, it will now be reassessed. And I would like assurance that what is said there, that if a family is entitled to have their route marked as I use the word dangerous route or whichever, but I understand the change in phrase, it will not be redesignated whilst that child is at school. But I also pick up about the safe walking and cycling needed. And later on, we've got the LC whip coming forward. And also the reference in the document about verges. And if the verge is 1.5 meters wide and it's a step over, I think is the word, then it is considered that verge can be used. If you're a mother with a toddler in a pushchair and you have a child, a 6-year-old child, and you're taking that child to school, is it fair, possible, safe for that mother to try and get that pushchair onto a verge in an unrestricted road with low traffic counts where the speed limit is 60 miles an hour? I'm not sure that it is, and I would urge that that is looked at under consideration, which goes beyond the statutory duty. It's consideration of the safety of the mother and children. That's just one example, but there will be others, and it is of concern that if we just stick to the statutory rules, we may be, I use the word maybe, I don't want it to be inflammatory, but we may be putting into danger some mothers with young children, because we are a rural county, and in the rural parts of the county there are not a lot of paths. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. I'm going to bring in James, but just to assure people that we do have the road safety team for that sort of work. So this is separate to this policy document, so that there are a lot of work and anything reported has been handed over. James, I don't know if you want to.
I was just going to say, Councillor, I don't know, the first part of Councillor Evans's question, I think, is probably for David, I think, to confirm. If I'm right, Councillor Evans, what you were saying was, if it route hasn't been assessed for 5 years, it will be subject to reassessment, but that you hope that that won't impact on any of the children that are currently at school.
Yeah.
I think we know that that is the case, David, but could you just confirm for me? I know you're nodding.
Absolutely, Leslie. Just a minute. So, apologies. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, absolutely.
Super. So, David Shaw, Assistant Director for Education and Achievement. I can confirm that, and I can see James is at the table as well, who will be able to share the details. Absolutely, this is about ensuring the utmost safety of children and young people in their transport arrangements. And whilst we're following statutory guidance, which is absolutely good practice, I do genuinely believe, as Kirsty Hurst-Knight has described, that connection with our safety teams will ensure this is absolutely suitable.
Thank you, David. Thank you very much, and thank you for joining us online today. James, nice to see you.
Thank you very much. James Willis, Passenger Transport Group Manager. So, picking up Councillor Evans' comments about the individual nature of routes, absolutely. And what David Shaw said earlier is that there's so many independent elements that we have to consider when we get an application. So we can't predetermine that outcome. These are the statutory guidelines. But obviously, in a huge rural county like we have in Shropshire, we have to treat each case on its merits, and that will be done. So this is laying out some of the statutory guidance that we're obviously following, some of the criteria, and it can look quite stark and black and white when you see it on paper, and actually what happens in person is taking into consideration all those comments and additional information that parents or carers will provide us at the time of the application.
Thank you, James. Yeah, come back, Roger.
Yeah, if I can, Chairman, can we ensure that the council does say about the will not, it's for any future ones essentially, but also in cases where there may be a danger or concerns about the safety of the family, then that will be looked at separately. It just, the word statutory appears all the way through it, and it may well raise a lot of fears.
Because it's statutory guidance, but Councillor Heston.
Just to reiterate that this will be annually reviewed. So again, the consultation process will keep happening every 12 months. That's really good practice for us.
Thank you. Okay. I haven't got any other hands in the room. I have a proposer. I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, David. We won't hang on to you. You're perfectly welcome to stay, and same goes for you, James, but I see you're heading for the hills already, so that's fine.
Good idea.
I won't hold it against you, James. Item number 9, Open School Baston Hill sale. Lead member, Councillor Dean Carroll.
Thank you. Leader, Councillor Dean Carroll, once again, Cabinet Member for Growth, Regeneration and Housing. This is asking for permission to dispose of the Oakland School, the former Oakland School site, the part that's within the ownership of the local authority, to Cornovi Developments Limited, the council-owned housing development company. This site has been empty for a considerable period of time, and as the report lays out, a previous development proposal was attempted in conjunction with the neighbouring landowner, which I believe is the Diocese of Lichfield. However, that wasn't able to be brought to fruition. So we have come back through Cornovi with a proposal to develop the part of the land owned by Shropshire Council. The proposal that has received planning permission in terms of the mix of properties is laid out in 2.3. It is a positive story for Baston Hill in that this site has been empty for some time and has attracted a degree of antisocial behaviour over the years. So bringing forward both the delivery of housing with local contractors and reutilising an empty site is a positive for the village. There are recommendations 3.1 and 3.2, which are proposed, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Have I got a seconder for that one?
Yes, Leader, Councillor Gwynn Butler, Portfolio Holder for Finance and Corporate Resources, happy to second.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, I know people in Baston Hill are going to be absolutely delighted about this because this has gone on for far too long. No hands in the room. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 10, which is the Shropshire LC Whip consultation. Lead member, Councillor Ian Nellens.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Nellens, Portfolio Holder for Climate Change, Environment and Transport. The purpose of this report is to seek Cabinet approval to go out to consultation on the draft Shropshire Local Cycling and Walking Infrastructure Plan, known as the LC Whip. Over the past 18 months, there's been a lot of work into the shaping of the LC Whip, with online meetings, site visits and assessments. I thank those local councillors and residents for their input already. There are ambitious standards for active travel infrastructure required to achieve the government's vision of half of all short urban journeys to be made by cycling and walking by 2030. So an LC Whip for Shropshire will enable the council to demonstrate a clear commitment to walking and cycling by identifying and prioritising the routes most applicable. Bear with me to bring that back up. Respond appropriately to the demand from communities for better walking and cycling facilities, provide higher quality infrastructure to meet the demand of a growing population, ensure that consideration is given to active modes through integration of the LC Whip with local planning and transport strategies and policies, make the case for future funding for active travel infrastructure, including active travel funding from the Department of Transport, Active Travel England and developer contributions. So the delivery of the LCWIP is dependent on the Council's ability to seek and secure funding to both develop and deliver future schemes. Once funding is secured for specific schemes, these will then be subject to local consultation with members and the public before progressing to implementation. I encourage members and residents to get involved, understand the proposals and the intent of the LCWIP. It's not an anti-car policy, but rather a means to provide safer road conditions and encourage residents to take the healthier option for short journeys. I propose that the Cabinet approves at 3.1 the draft LCWIP document and appendices to go to public consultation for a period of 6 weeks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Nails. Have got a seconder for that?
Happy to second Councillor Kirsty Hurst-Knight.
Thank you very much, and I'd just like to reiterate what Ian's just said. I think the most important thing is to make sure that we get as many comments from town and parish councils, from residents and from local elected members. So I know that the comms team will be doing a real push to make sure that we get a big feedback on this one. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Leader. I've got a comment from Councillor Wilson, which is who's led on this, but before I introduce that, I'd like to say that I know that it's the 7 towns that are mentioned in it, the largest towns, coming from a rural area, and also the likes of Wen, Bishop's Castle, Ellesmere are not mentioned. I'm not sure what's happening there, because we do have areas there where we would want paths, we would want more cycleways and everything like this, but Councillor Wilson asked me to pass on this, and he welcomes the production of the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. I'll see whip. Disappointed though that it's taken this long. It should have been produced when the government first introduced guidance in 2017. How much funding have we missed out as a result? He thanks, and I do thank the portfolio holder and the leader for the more open approach to active travel since you took over, and even though it's not in their area of expertise. Hope that this commitment now moves on to the next stage of actually implementing schemes on the ground to the benefit of all residents. Active Travel England has graded Shropshire Council at 1 on a score of 0 to 4. Which means some local leadership and support with basic plans and isolated interventions. How will the administration move Shropshire to level 2, defined as strong local leadership and support, with strong plans and emerging network? And will the administration consider allocating further staff to the active travel team to allow them to progress these projects? The document raises questions about why an interim LTP is not published to bridge the gap between the long outdated LTP3 and the significantly delayed LTP4. Could the draft LTP4, in whatever state it is, not be considered by a scrutiny meeting in the near future? Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, and thank you for Councillor Wilson's comment. Half a page later. Councillor Ian Nails.
Thank you, Roger. First of all, on your comment about the 7 towns, obviously the criteria for this was to reduce urban movement, so that's where it first of all comes in. But there is ambitious plans to increase that to 10 kilometres around each of the towns. So that does take in quite a bit of the county. And when you add in the fact of the national cycle network, so places like Wem will be catered for, and down along the F49 stretch. So there are potentials for that. I say potential because obviously there's a lot of funding needs to be unlocked before any of this can take place. And that ties into what Councillor Wilson mentions. We are where we are. You know, whatever was or wasn't gained since 2017, I wouldn't know. However, back to the consultation, the more people get involved with the consultation, we get the momentum going, we will then start to see how if it's supported by the Cabinet and the Council, which I'm positive it will be, if the residents get on board as well. And I think half the problem with some of the residents is they think that the LCWIP is a possibility of driving cars off the road, no pun intended. It's not. It's to allow safe travel for pedestrians and cyclists as well as road users. But given that given that confidence to residents that they can let their children go to school, so it ties into the school streets, that they can go to places of work within a reasonable distance, full of take longers, in a safe way that will minimise traffic on the roads, make it safer, and gives people that healthier option, as I mentioned earlier. That will all tie in. We will give it support, but we need the residents to get behind this. I think the momentum comes. It's been demonstrated by the momentum we got with the electric vehicle chargers. Once you start getting on that foot and momentum grows, then we get success. And if we all get behind this, we get success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Evans, come back in first, and then Councillor Buckley.
Thank you, Chairman. I noticed in the report where it says Section 508A of the Act places a general duty on local authorities to promote the use of sustainable travel and transport, and it consists of 5 main elements, and all 5 talk about needs of children and young people within the authorities' areas. This concentrates on 7 towns. There are a lot of children living outside those areas, so I hope they are not neglected. And I note the consultants who produced it, they call themselves, or they use city in their title. And when I read the report, I couldn't pick up the word rural anywhere in the report. I might have missed it, but I can pick up towns and all the rest of it. But the word rural seems not to appear in that report, which is quite a comprehensive report.
When you respond to the consultation, Councillor Evans, you can make that very point.
Be sure I will.
Councillor Hurst-Knight coming back in on that point, and then Councillor
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Evans. It's just I've started to attend these meetings because a lot of joined up working with children in schools, and obviously in this room we've got a big launch of the Active Travel School project, and bikeability training will be offered to all of our pupils. So there's a lot of work there to look at the hashtag bike, walk, scoot programme that we're working on, which is quite exciting. But yeah, there's a lot of work going on there with schools, so hence why we're joining everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurst-Knight. I should say I had an email this morning about asking when Shropshire was going to allow electric scooters, but we'll move on. Councillor Buckley.
Thank you. Julia Buckley, the leader of the Labour Group. I really welcome the report, and I also welcome the way that the workshops were widened to enable members and the local councils to get involved in shaping these maps and putting forward suggestions. It was really welcome. And I'm pleased to hear about the 10 kilometres outside of towns and the joined up work with schools. There's 2 points really I want to make. One is, it's not just that our county is rural and that needs to be more emphasised in the report, but we have quite specific topography. So we obviously have rivers that cut cycle routes and can only be crossed by bridges, and we have a huge amount of hills, and those 2 topographical features make it quite tricky for cyclists in the county. So I think that when they develop this strategy further, it really needs to be taken into account, because those are the barriers to cycling that we find for families, for children, and the next thing I'm going to say is for visitors. So when we're talking about cycling across the county, I think that it is a major attraction for our tourism strategy, because we're looking at sustainable tourism, and we do have people that choose to cycle through Shropshire, and what they want to do is cycle from town to town. Obviously, it's not going to be possible to join every town up with routes, but we could have a look about safety of rural roads, again thinking about bridges and topography, to open up more routes to that avenue. And the last thing I want to say is that what's welcome about this is that we hope it will unlock funding, and that you talk about prioritising. I hope that we will apply priority, because while Shrewsbury has already some cycle lanes and wants more, I agree with Councillor Evans that we need to look at areas that don't have any. When you read the Bridge North report, when I was there in the workshop, we have 0 cycling infrastructure. There isn't a single cycle lane in the 3rd largest town in Shropshire. So it's about, yes, getting some quick wins, but it's about adding value where it's already missing. And I agree with Councillor Evans, we could just widen this out a bit further. But overall, it's a fantastic piece of work. It's really welcome. Lots of residents and stakeholders have asked me why it's delayed and when's it coming. So I think you will get a fantastic response to the consultation. We'll certainly encourage people to engage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Councillor Ian, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, thanks very much for the positive. I'd just like to remind Councillor Buckley that British Office the fourth largest town. But apart from that, yeah, the topography is what it is, and that's why the city signs, that's their name. That's right, that's what it is. But they will obviously have to look at all that because the topography. Sorry, the geography of the county. They were looking at places of origin and places of destination and how to get from A to B. So that's and that's a similar thing. What happens? Obviously, they have to look at choke points, etc., which will have an impact on that. So that's all part of the work that they will deliver. When it comes to rivers, well, obviously they need crossing points, and they are what they are. When it comes to hills, the more people cycle, the more they'll be able to tackle the hills. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Yeah, there's a great invention called battery bikes as well. But anyway, moving on. Okay, Richard, I know you wanted to come in. Councillor Marshall.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. Just a quick point, really, to Councillor Wilson's comments he was making. I think we can't get too hung up on the fact of what level we are, because, okay, we are classified as level 1. But when you look at our streets, they're low level capacity with the medieval street patterns that we've got. So in essence, with a lot of the schemes that we've got coming through, it could be said that we're punching above our weight with that, and we are more akin to level 2 councils that are out there. So I think we should bear that in mind with some of the barriers that we have with us at the moment.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. I have a proposer. I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed, everybody. I'll turn the microphones back on. Unless I'm very much mistaken, that brings us to the end of today's Cabinet meeting. Thank you very much for your attendance.
Do you think the market rate is bigger than Bristol?
Population-wise,
11,770.
it's